Something we haven't talked about directly. Well, we kind of did in episode 7, what to sell, but we never really talked about how to sell. And I'll apologize. My bad. I spent 15 years in retail selling things, and then 20 plus years doing this woodworking thing, selling things, and I kind of took it for granted. Sorry. I think most woodworkers do okay selling when the customer says yes, but what happens when the customer says no? Hi, my name's Roger Kugler. This is Working at Woodworking Podcast, number 76, Salesmanship 101. Hopefully you will find this helpful in your pursuit of your woodworking professional career, whether that is full-time or part-time, just a side gig. Make some extra money, buy some tools, help out Mrs. Smith up the street who needs her rocking chair fixed. Use your skills as a woodworker to help your community. That's what we're all about here. So basic selling. This is something that doesn't usually come natural to people. And if you struggle with this, it's certainly not your fault. Because in today's day and age, I would wager to say you've never actually been exposed to a good salesperson. We live in an economy of big box stores. The shoe store in downtown, small town, even large town, where Mr. Jenkins has been working for 35 years. He was a salesperson. And we're not talking about like used car, cheap suit type salesperson. This was a person who actually cared about you. He cared about his business. He cared about his employer. He wanted to give you the very best experience when you were looking for a new pair of shoes. He had to make sure that he fitted you properly, he treated you properly, that he sold you a pair of shoes that he was confident that you were going to get a good value for, that was going to fit well, that was going to function well, and that you would be back to buy your next pair of shoes. And long-range vision, you would bring your children back to buy shoes. Modern economy, that just doesn't really exist anymore. That personal level of sales. Now when we think about sales, we think about maybe some movies in the last 20 or 30 years, Wolf of Wall Street. That's not sales. In my opinion, that's taking advantage of people. That's taking advantage of people who don't really know the subject matter very well, and some pushy, slick, well-spoken person can just bowl them over. That's not sales. That's not what we're talking about here. When you go into a big box store, maybe you're looking for a new power tool, you're going to encounter clerks. These are people who work there to stock the shelves, to make sure that the aisles are neat and tidy. Sometimes you can find typically an older person who's working there. They may be retired. They are tired of playing golf, and they are a wealth of knowledge. But that's rare. That's just doesn't really happen very much anymore. So how do you sell in the best sense of the word? This is going to start with customer contact. You're going to receive an email. You'll get a phone call. Maybe you'll get a Google message. Perhaps it will be via Yelp. Number one, respond quickly. If you can't answer the phone and they leave a message, don't call them back next week. Don't call them back later in the week. Call them back that day, if at all possible. Tomorrow, yeah, okay, that's probably all right. But do call them back. But what if they're asking about something that you just don't do. Do you need to call them back? Yes, you do. Be courteous. Call them back. Politely say that you don't do that. Maybe you know someone who does that type of work that you could recommend them to. But you have made a personal contact. Remember, there is no sale without communication. That applies in person and that applies online or through a print medium. Remember those things that we used to get called catalogs? Well, those catalogs were communicating information. Sales depends upon communication, so don't blow this. So you do get a phone call, an email, etc., and it's something that you do. Let's say bookcases. This person wants a set of bookcases to fit in a particular part of their home. We discussed this process in episode 72, the design process. Step number 7 specifically, when the customer has accepted your bid and you get to work. Great. That was a really smooth sales process. Straightforward. Like I said, most people don't have a problem with that. Where I see people start to get into trouble is when the customer says no. Now we can react in a couple different ways. Some people just kind of throw up their hands, shrug their shoulders, and go, oh well, I've got plenty of work. But that is so totally the wrong attitude to take. Now, rarely does a customer actually use the word N-O. No. Usually you're going to get something like, whoa, that's out of our price range. Well, you kind of screwed something up here in steps 1 through 6 when you were qualifying the customer. You should have found out what their price range was. If they were looking for something, $1,000 and you quoted them $6,000, you're bad. I mean, that's just on you. You didn't do a good job there. Sometimes they'll say, well, I think this price is too high. Okay, that's a little bit more either a negotiating tactic on the customer's part, or they truly have been doing some shopping. They've probably been online. They may have gone to, that big store where all the Swedes shop and you can get the little meatballs. And they have a different idea of how much this should cost than, well, your reality, because you know how much materials are, your overhead, so on and so forth. But that wasn't a direct no. That was, why is your price so high? That's what they're really asking here. And this is where you go through and you talk to them and explain. Sometimes a customer will just say, no, this isn't what we had in mind. This isn't what we were looking for. And again, that's probably on you because you didn't have a real clear idea. Maybe their entire home is like mid-century modern and you came up with like an early American colonial piece. I mean, that's probably on you. Or the classic, we're going to need more time to think about this. Ooh, okay. That one can be problematic, and we'll unpack these in a few minutes. But these objections, as they're called, or some people think of them as rejections, they're not a bad thing. It just means that you're going to have to do a little bit more work. These objections are cries for more information. You're still talking, you're still communicating, so there is still hope. Now, whenever a customer ghosts you, you just never hear back from them, that's not a real good sign. If a customer says, we've decided to go in a different direction, that's pretty much them telling you to off. There's not a whole bunch you can do about that. And again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, as far as formal sales training, sales technique, there are probably dozens or hundreds of different techniques. A lot of it depends on the industry that you're working in. If you're in the aerospace industry, sales techniques are probably different than in the building industry, in new home construction. So everyone's going to have their kind of unique spin on things, but the very basics we can break sales techniques down into is either a hardcore or a soft core technique. A hard sell, that's something you might find at an auto dealership, or the soft sell, well, something that you might find at a auto dealership. Yeah, you can use both these techniques. A lot of it depends on the personality of the salesperson, to be honest. It requires a unique person, a unique personality to do that high pressure, hard sell, telemarketers, spammers. I mean, that's where that high pressure is coming in. I dislike that technique, and I just will not engage with somebody with that technique, although you can have a lot of fun with those type of people. So if we take the classic sales technique, something that's been taught for probably 100 years, there's 4 parts. There's the greet, the qualify, the present, and the close. The greet, or the greeting, the initial contact. Again, different industries, different words for basically the same thing. This is where you're getting to know the customer. You're not talking prices. You're not talking design or materials or colors. You're just getting to know one another. Very often this is going to be a home visit. And you look at their house, you look at the trim, you look at the color choices, the style. We covered this in episode 72. You start to get a sense of what type of people you're talking to. Is it a single mother with 3 kids? Is it a retired couple who wants something really nice? They're also getting to know you. Do they want to work with you? Do you want to work with them? I have walked onto jobs and in about 45 seconds realized that I do not want to work here. And it just so happened that day I got out of bookcases. I don't do bookcases anymore. Be honest, not brutally honest, but gracious, and turned a job down. Maybe recommended a job to someone else that could do that, or someone that you don't really like. So that's the greeting stage. You're scoping them out, they're scoping you out. And then you kind of move into the qualifying stage. So what are you looking for in this bookcase? What do you want it to look like? And again, episode 72, we covered all of that. And remember, in this qualifying stage, you are looking for problems. What is the real problem behind this? Because sometimes people don't know what the real problem is. They're just coming up with solutions that they think would fix the symptom, but not fix the problem. The simple one is the problem is they don't have enough shelving to store all of their books or their artwork or family pictures, versus the old kitchen story that I've mentioned to you. The lady hated her dark kitchen cabinets. They're ugly. I can't clean them. Can you come out and I'm thinking of a whole new kitchen, maybe in a lighter, colored wood. And it turned out that she had a single 60-watt light bulb illuminating the entire kitchen. That's why everything was dark. We replaced it with a nice 4-bulb fluorescent. This is decades ago. And she could actually see. And her cabinets really weren't that bad, although they did need a good cleaning, which she couldn't see under 60 watts of light. So you got to look for the problem, because what they want isn't necessarily what they need. And your job is to kind of ferret all of this out. You also have to qualify the price range. If they've been looking at Pottery Barn or Wayfair or something like that, and they expect this to cost $249, and you can't even buy the material that you would be willing to work with for that. You've got to figure that out up front, within the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know some people say you never talk price on the first meeting. Those people either have way more time than I do, or you're talking about really big ticket items. But still, I think it's a good idea to figure this out on the initial meeting. I'm not going to tell you how many times I've spent 6 or 8 hours doing a set of drawings and sketches and plans and turn the thing in for $1,800, and they say, geez, I thought this would cost about $4. That's what I saw, online at xyz.com. You'll just never get that time back. It's gone. It's history. So do yourself a favor. Qualify this up front. And you don't have to be rude about it. So what is your price range for this project? That's not being intrusive. That's not being rude. That's not making any type of implications. That is a simple question. Oftentimes you won't get a definitive answer because honestly they don't know, and they will say, well, I don't really know. And that's where you can offer something that, a nice bookcase is going to run whatever your numbers might be, $600, $1,000, $2,400. And so that you're helping them, giving them a price range. You could say something like, well, the last couple cases that I built, if I remember correctly, ran between $800 and the other one was about $1,200, but that had some nice crown molding and things like that on it. So that's roughly the range. That tells them that they can continue talking to you, or they need to go to the Swedish store. And so during to finish out the qualifying step number 2, you're going to go into your design phase. You're going to do your rough sketches and calculate your bid. That leads us to step 3, the presentation, or when you present the offer to do the work that they've requested you to do. You can do this a couple different ways. You could make an appointment. You could show up at their house at 5:15 on a Thursday afternoon when they're both home, and hand over the project. You show them your sketches. You talk about the features and benefits. Now, this is really, really important. And honestly, I kind of think this is the heart of salesmanship, not just throwing a catalog at them and let them well, yeah, I guess this looks okay, Martha, but actually selling the job. And we do that by selling the features and the benefits. I've got a link in the show notes to a couple of videos you might want to check out. An example of a feature would be full extension drawer slides. On a kitchen cabinet, maybe your bookcase, you have a cabinet under. And I love full extension drawer slides. I don't think any cabinet with a pull-out drawer should be built without full extension drawer slides. Maybe an undermount, but just saying, yes, these are full extension undermount drawer slides. Now, as far as the stain that you wanted, I could do something like, whoa, hit the brakes. You just don't bounce over something like that, especially, full extension undermount drawer slides. They are not cheap. And that's going to add literally hundreds of dollars to the project. So you can't skip over that. Why have you selected full extension undermount drawer slides? What are the benefits of these drawer slides? The benefit of these particular type of drawer slides is that you will get more storage. Well, how's that? And if you're in a person's home, let's say the kitchen that they're talking about, always ask first, may I open this drawer? Well, yes, sure. and you pull the drawer open and it's a 3/4 extension. And ask them, when's the last time you were in the back of this drawer? Do you even know what's in the back of this drawer? Because typically we only deal with what we can see. They could have stuff in the back of that drawer that they haven't seen since the Reagan administration. Or lower kitchen cabinets are even worse, because there they would always put this little half shelf in. And you're expected to put something up on that half shelf. Well, the only thing you put up there would be things like maybe the Christmas baking dishes or the Halloween candy bowl, because you're only going to get that once a year. And as people get older, they don't like to get down on their hands and knees on the kitchen floor to figure out what's up there. They may not have been in there for 20 years. But if you had a full extension drawer box, you can see 100% of what's in there. And that's where the sales technique comes in. You're selling the benefit of what you're doing for the customer. So don't just mention the feature and go on to the next one. Mention the feature and then the benefit of that feature, why they really want this particular feature. Now, if you're doing a sketch, mention the feature. Don't just say full extension drawer slides. On my bids, I say full extension drawer slides to maximize storage area and to make it easier for you to find things. Right there, the feature and the benefit. Don't overlook this. This is, like I said, this is kind of the heart of sales. Now, this isn't a hard sell. Well, you are really going to regret if you don't get these full extension drawer slides. No, you don't need to do that. People are adults, but you can impress upon them. Tell stories. We sell through stories. I remodeled a couple of our kitchen cabinets, and I made full extension drawer boxes for the lower cabinet units. OMG. It changed the way we use those cabinets. You can pull the thing out and see everything that's in there. And if you can impart this on to your customers, if you're excited about it, you can get them excited about it. So, okay, probably beat that concept to death. But like I said, that is the real heart of selling. So you've done a really good job with the greeting, a good job with the qualifying. You've done an excellent job with the presentation. And the only thing left, step number 4, is the close. They say, great. How much of a down payment would you like? And you're off to the races. Whoa. It doesn't always work that way. This is where the rejection comes in. This is where the objections come in, what we talked about a little bit earlier. You're out of their price range. Your price is too high. This isn't what we were looking for. We are going to need more time to think about it. These are all objections. There's something that they are lacking the information to make a yes or no decision. This is where you have to start filling in the blanks. This is where you have probably missed something in that qualification stage. You need to find out what that is that they're looking for. We think your price is too high. Well, have you compared this to some other things on the market? What makes you think that this price is too high? You can ask them directly, not being rude. You're communicating. Well, we had a friend of our nephew's second cousin, twice removed on our mother's side, and they got something very similar to this, and it was about half the price. Okay, where was this located? Well, this was in, a really small town in a rural part of the country. Yeah, that probably was about half. Now that's a price objection. And you're going to have to demonstrate that you live in your particular area, your taxes are so much, your rent or mortgage is so much, your health insurance is so much, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can't compare the price in this area to the price in this area. This would be like comparing a new set of kitchen cabinets installed in a high-rise in New York City compared to a new set of kitchen cabinets installed in a 3-bedroom ranch in Carrollton, Ohio. They're just not the same. And also ask, is she pleased with those cabinets? Well, one will look at the other and say, well, she did have problems with the doors falling off. So you're kind of putting things into perspective for the customer. You can assure them that your doors will not fall off. And yes, that is reflected in the price. So just remember that an objection is not a no. It's an opportunity for you to provide more information. There's a question in the customer's mind. You need to answer that question. Unfortunately, a lot of times people don't ask the question that needs to be answered. And so as a good salesperson, you need to figure that out. Sometimes an objection is just something you missed. They say, well, this all looks really good except the delivery date. We will be in Spain during that time. Oh, you told me that. I so totally forgot that. My apologies. We can do this when you get back from Spain. That works out. So handle the objections almost as a challenge. Go through each objection, provide more information, and always be focusing on the benefits of the project and not just the features. Now, sometimes it does come down to price. They said their price range was, up to $2,000, but you're at $1,985. And they're kind of wincing a little bit because they know they're going to, probably have to sell a grandchild or something, to pay for this. Then you need to work with them. This is an opportunity to do something to try to get that price down, something more manageable for them. Maybe you could switch from under cabinet drawer slides full extension to side mount drawer slides. Maybe you could use 1/4-inch material for the backs of the cabinet instead of 1/2-inch material. And something that I would actually like to explore a little bit more is no back in lower kitchen cabinets. I am doing a remodel of a house that was built in the 50s, and these cabinets are kind of a combination of shop built, on-site built. It's kind of that transition period before everything was built in a factory. And the center cabinet under the sink is not a full cabinet. It's simply a face. There's rails and stiles and 2 doors that swing open, but there's no floor, there's no back, there's no sides. They simply used angle clips to attach this face frame to the adjacent cabinets. Really unique. And I'll tell you, if you have some plumbing issues, it's super simple to drop, 6 screws and pull this thing away, and you have full access underneath. I could also see that as a sales feature if somebody might be wheelchair bound, that this could literally be modified with 6 screws to make this fully accessible. So now we get to the place that I'm going to say about 90% of salespeople blow it. Just totally screw this up. You've done really well on your greeting, your opening, your qualification. You handled the objections just like Perry Mason. You're just now kind of sitting there staring at each other. What's step 4? The close. A lot of salespeople totally don't do this. They never close. In fact, in some of the big time, sales, retail, auto dealerships, there is a closer. This is the person that closes the deal. Somebody else did the, qualification, the greetings, and so on and so forth. And they give it to someone who closes the deal because there is a kind of a unique set of skills involved here. There are several methods that can be used. There's the direct sale, which you ask for the sale. Now, in some circles, the direct close is frowned upon. Some people think that this is it's too direct. You've spent all this time. You've gone through the first 3 steps and you finally get to the 4th step. You have a good relationship. You have done your work. Ask for the sale. So what do you think? You want to move forward with this? Any more questions? There's nothing wrong with that. Just be direct. A lot of customers are waiting for you to ask for the sale. They're just not forward enough to say, yes, yes, yes. When can we start? When can we start? Like a Labrador. No, they're not going to do that. They're more like a border collie. I'm waiting. So ask for the sale. Nothing at all wrong with that. Obviously, you don't want to be a jerk about it, but, just be direct. You've established a good relationship with these customers. You can do this. Or there's another technique. So I have an opening on July 14th. I can schedule you in for that. That is what's referred to as an assumptive close, that the salesperson is assuming that you are going to buy, and they just keep on going through all the details that you would cover after the customer would say yes, the down payment, the time schedule, the materials, whatever, but they assume that you're going to buy. I don't favor this one at all. I think this one I actually do think is kind of rude. The thinking behind it is that you've spent a lot of time building a relationship and the customer's going to feel maybe embarrassed or they don't want to hurt your feeling by saying that word that everyone has so much trouble with, no. And so they kind of just go along and, well, geez, Martha, I didn't think we were going to buy a timeshare, but guess we did. That's the assumptive close. Again, I don't care for that one. Some people can use it effectively. I'm not a big fan. Another technique is the interrogative or the question. So I can start on this Tuesday morning with the measurements, or I have an opening Thursday afternoon. Which would work better for you? It's kind of an assumptive close, but you're giving the person a choice. Human nature, a lot of people have a trouble deciding between a negative and a positive, a yes and a no. And that's kind of the danger of the direct method is you're giving them a choice of 2 things, yes or no. The interrogative close is you're giving them a choice between 2 yeses. Yes, Tuesday will work fine. Yes, Thursday afternoon would be good. So that can be used. It really just kind of depends on you, your style, and the customer that you're dealing with. Now, there's a kind of a 4th closing technique that, unfortunately, I've seen salespeople use. And it's I'll leave the information with you, and you can get back to me when you decide, or if you have any more questions. Thanks for your time. Good meeting you. And you're out the door. You just gave your customers the exit ramp. It's like, wow, geez, he got out of here rather fast. Huh. And that's just kind of destroyed the entire thing that you've spent all this time, step 1, 2, 3, and 4 building, and you just threw it out the window. There's no commitment by the customer at all. Do not use this. You gave the customers a very easy out. They have that conflict between saying yes and no. Well, you pretty much just told them that they should answer no. Customers will come back and say, we need some time to look this over. Excellent. how about if I contact you Thursday afternoon? Oh, yeah, we'll be here. You haven't given them the exit ramp. You haven't opened the window for them to jump out. You are still committed to the process. You are still involved. So do that. Don't give them the exit ramp. Always stay connected. There's a kind of a mantra in sales called the ABCs of salesmanship. Always be closing. And it's kind of a philosophy that you're reiterating what the customer wants throughout the entire process. You're confirming that the customer agrees with what you're saying and that you agree with what the customer is saying. And the underlying basis is an assumptive close, but you're not going to, well, some people will, but I would recommend not coming right out with an assumptive close at this, but you're always closing the deal. So even during your greeting process where you're just kind of getting to know each other, you're displaying confidence that you can do this job. You're displaying confidence that, the customers is a good fit for your business. You're qualifying that you understand that the customer understands the benefits of the full extension drawer slides. So you've established these things all the way through. The one great thing about the ABCs is that if done properly, there's really not a lot of room for the objections, for the additional questions that come after the presentation. And it can lead to a close very, very quickly. You can get the customer excited about, I was able to find the stain that you had asked for. It's right here. I even did up a little sample block of it. Oh, that's wonderful. You're getting them involved in the process. And that's the other big thing about sales is it's not so much it's much different than going on to Amazon and clicking and having the thing show up in 2 days. This is a process, and you should involve the customer in the process. And I've spoken about this before. Make them part of this. Make this enjoyable for them, because they're going to have a dinner party and someone's going to compliment this piece that you built for them, and guarantee you they're going to tell the story about the process of them getting this. They're not going to say, yeah, I used my finger and I clicked on the Amazon link and it showed up in 2 days. Not going to happen. They're going to talk about you. They're going to talk about how attentive you were, how well you listened, how you did not object to taking your shoes off whenever they came in, when you came into their house. That you didn't go rummaging through their kitchen cabinet drawers to look for all the different problems. You were very responsive to their needs, and you were wonderful to work with. And, oh, by the way, he left some cards here in the top drawer. Would you like one? Boom! You just nailed it. 100% job well done. So some final thoughts on sales. Don't let it scare the crap out of you. It's really not that hard. It's simple communication. You're talking to another human being. When everything is done and finished, neither you nor the customer should have a slimy feel, like you just left a used car lot. Sorry for picking on car salesmen. You should both sleep well at night after you've made this deal. You've taken care of the customer and you have solved their problem. That's the ultimate goal of a good salesperson. And something that we need to be very conscious of, we haven't created a new problem for them, such as you didn't set your toolbox down on their dining room table and scratched it. You are absolutely certain that you hit the studs when you hung the upper kitchen cabinet. You definitely remember anchoring the bookcase to the wall in the studs when you installed that new bookcase. Don't create new problems for the customer. And in our line of work, you've got to be really careful. Belt buckles. Be careful of your belt buckles, because if you're like me, where if I'm lifting something, I have a tendency of holding it close to my body. Well, if I have a belt buckle that kind of protrudes, is made of metal, that could scratch something. So just be very, very cognizant of these things. Don't create new problems for the customer. Solve the problems that they already have. Recommendations for this week. I have links to some resources on, you can get more information on different sales techniques. Like I said, there are many, 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 and you can learn something from all of them. Missed jobs for the week. Murphy bed. Haven't totally missed this job, but I've explained how far behind on things I am, and the customer has agreed that this could wait till next year. I am going to stop by her house and take a look at the space, because she's not totally sure that this is going to work. If you're faced with this type of situation, don't leave a customer hanging for 6 months, and when you finally get around to looking at it, say, oh, no, this won't work because of X, Y, or Z. You just blew 6 months of their life. You know, they were anticipating this, and geez, if you'd have said this 6 months ago, I could have moved on to something else. So be careful with that whenever you're delaying processes. Boy, did I screw up. Yeah, I have one. I screwed up my arm. And if anyone is watching a video, you know that it's not the normal video, because I just couldn't get all that stuff set up. So I had to kind of go old school video on this. Yeah, I screwed up my elbow, my forearm, my brachial radialis to be exact. It's an overuse injury. I've had this before. I've had it, my early days of weight training. And I kind of think what happened was on this remodel job, I was using a hammer a lot. And I was told by an old carpenter when I first started this new career, he said, buy nail guns for everything. Try to never pick up a hammer. And he suffered from elbow and shoulder problems from a lifetime of swinging a hammer. And sure enough, I was using a hammer, and I think it kind of came back and bit me. So I've got a couple days off. I can catch up on my bookkeeping, do a little bit of marketing, clean up the website, things like that. I'm not out in the shop this week. Special thanks to listeners in Middlesboro, Kentucky, and Halifax, Nova Scotia. And we have one listener in Sweden that I greatly appreciate. Remember to check out the affiliate links for Taylor Tools and for VoIP telephone service. And until next episode, happy woodworking.